If you compare an exit intent trigger to, let's say, triggering a light box after 3 seconds or 10 seconds, my bets would always be that the time triggered light box is probably going to get about twice as many leads.
Hey podcast listener, you're about to discover insider tips, tricks, and secrets to making more sales and converting more prospects into customers with email marketing. For more information about the Email Marketing Podcast or the Autoresponder Guide, go to dropdeadcopy.com/podcast.
It's John McIntyre here, the Autoresponder Guy. I'm here with Shane Melaugh. Now, Shane came to me through Andre Chaperone because he recently released a product called Thrive Leads. He's got a number of different products around this Thrive idea, Thrive themes, Thrive leads. There might be others out there that I don't know of. And how I heard about it was Andre was recently promoting this. I got in touch with Andre and said, hey, I need to meet this guy Shane because he looks like he's doing some cool stuff with email opt-in plugins and also with the WordPress stuff and the conversion theme. So I thought I would get him on the show and have a chat about what he's seeing with, in the email opt-in industry, if you can call it industry, but basically this whole field to find out what's working for him, what's not working, mistakes that he sees, probably some of the motivation that got him to do, why he created Thrive Leads in the first place, and I want to have a chat about things like Bounce Exchange, which you'll hear about in a minute. So we'll get into that in just a moment. Shane, how you doing?
Hey, John, I'm great, thank you, and thanks for having me on the podcast.
It's great to have you on the show. So, before we talk about Thrive Leads and all the nitty-gritty of email opt-ins and landing pages, can you tell me a bit about yourself?
Sure, yeah. So, I guess the short story is that, after school, I kind of didn't know what to do with my life for a while, and I noticed that I was unemployable. Essentially, I couldn't really hold down a job. And I also, I went back to university at some point to start studying psychology, but the only thing I really learned there was that I really didn't want to be in university. And so, and I had this, and I guess like entrepreneurialism was, in a way, the thing that I'd really wanted to do, but also in a way the only option I really had because like nothing else was working for me. So I started, and I kind of knew I want to do something myself, right? I want to be an entrepreneur. I really like this idea, and I love creating things. And I had like a good basis for becoming an entrepreneur, but I had no idea what I was doing. And so, I think like many people, when I started out, I was completely clueless. I attempted to start a couple of businesses that just when I think about it now just makes me cringe. Because I just, the idea was bad, the execution was bad, everything was bad. And it was just like a process of trial and error that, at some point I was selling stuff on eBay. I was selling computer hardware at one point, and somehow I stumbled my way into online marketing and found my feet there, started to figure out what I'm actually good at and what I like doing. And now, for the last few years, I've been creating software and specifically like WordPress tools. And that's become my core business now. But it was really like quite a long trial and error process before I actually found the thing I really want to do.
It's funny because just over this weekend I read a book by Cal Newport called, I think it's called So Good They Can't Ignore You. And it's all about this idea of how when we're young, we go through high school and then we get told we need to go to university and go through all these different, sort of follow that standard life path. And what happens is we all question ourselves on, what should I do with my life? And then there's this huge movement that's built up now around this idea of go and live your passion, do what you love and the money will follow. That whole idea. And this guy in this book, his whole point is that is terrible advice, that the people who actually love their careers and love what they do and have a great life very rarely ever got there by trying to follow their passion. They actually instead, they got really, really good at something first. And then after they'd done that, after they tried a whole bunch of different things, but gotten really good at something, they started to be passionate about it. So
yeah, that's actually really interesting you mentioned that because one of the things I continuously talk about, like I have a blog where I talk about marketing and business stuff, and one of the things I keep talking about is like the most important principle for me is what I call the grind, which is pick a skill and just grind it out. And it's going to be hard and it's going to be awful and you're going to hate your life for some of the time. But you just grind it out, right? You just grind out that skill until you're so good at it that people can't ignore you. I think that's a good way to put it, right? The kind of thing that happens is that people ask me if if they can hire me to write their copy or hire me to create their sales videos, even though I don't offer a service like that, but just because those are, that's a craft that I've honed long enough that people now look at my stuff and go, this is really good. Can I hire this guy? So that's a good basis for a business. If you're so good that people see your stuff and they want to pay you, that's a good basis for a business. And I agree. It doesn't have much to do with like just pursuing your passion.
Yeah, it's interesting too because it's I know over the last few years, one thing I've noticed in my own business is I've been traveling around and doing having a great lifestyle. And as the business has grown, it's allowed me to probably question, more of these things. So instead of thinking about how am I going to pay the bills, I've moved from that to thinking, well, how am I, what does it mean to live a good life? What does it mean to be excited and passionate? And so I think I've actually fallen into what I'm now probably going to be calling, lazy habits of thinking by thinking about this idea of, what am I passionate about? What am I interested in? And I think it's actually been hamstringing my ability to make an impact, when instead I should have been focusing on, and I haven't been terrible with this, but it's just a tendency. I've noticed that, if I had been focused entirely on just getting better, that's it, then I probably would have had more fun. Because ironically, it's funny, when I find, for me, it might be the same with you, when I focus on just getting better and practicing and studying, I actually find I feel really, really good. But the more I think about, well, what am I passionate about, or what do I enjoy, and the more I start to, think I'm doing the wrong thing. And so it really, that thinking creates a lot of discontent.
Yeah, I think we all make a mistake that, if you ask people, what would you do if money wasn't an object? They're like, well, just sit on a beach and drink cocktails or something, which is kind of a nice image to have in your head, but it actually wouldn't be a satisfying life at all. And really, the kind of things that really fulfill you and satisfy you are usually very difficult to do and involve hard work and involve overcoming obstacles and stuff. On the other hand, I have to say, for me, I'm also a bit of a cautious tale because I have like workaholic tendencies. So I can I've definitely also seen the other side of that, where I can take it way too far, where I just have no life and I'm just working nonstop. And I like my work and everything. And it's great to be successful, to build a business successful is very gratifying. But I've also, often come to the point where I'm like, well, I don't have a life. What's the point? What's the point of doing all this when my whole existence is just slaving away at my own business? So I think it's a challenging thing to find the balance there.
One way I've been thinking about it is that there needs to be a mission. So, someone like Elon Musk or some of these guys, like Mark Zuckerberg, who's building Facebook. These guys, like, I think it's an interesting question to be like, well, I wonder, do they think about work like this? Do they ever wake up and go, man, I can't believe all I do is work on this big, $1 billion company? And part of me thinks that maybe some days they are a bit like that. But I think generally speaking, those sort of people are, work's not really. I mean, I doubt they think about work the same way we. A lot of most of us think about work. Work to them is just a way to probably achieve a mission, or a way of expressing themselves in the world. And I think when you kind of get to that point, which is probably the holy grail of existence, perhaps, but when you get to that point where what you do is. I mean, you need breaks. You need time to rejuvenate and heal and relax. But generally speaking, if you're involved in a mission that you care about, then ultimately you should be trying to do it as, if it's important to you and it's adding value to the world, then really, you should be doing it as, trying to do it as fast as possible, as hard as possible, so you can achieve that vision and then add that value to the world. Because the longer you wait, the more people are going to be without that value that you could have created. So the only reason you should, in one sense, I almost think that the only reason any of us should stop working is just to take a rest so we can be more effective when we are working. Because it's not that we're not working in a cubicle, but we're working to create something or make, add some sort of unique value to the world.
Yeah, which kind of, in a way, brings us almost full circle back to the passion thing, because that means that you have managed to create a business for yourself that is the larger mission in your life, is something where you're working on something that is greater than yourself. And essentially, in a way, that is, you're so passionate about your work that's what you want to do. That's what you want your life to be. So I think we've actually kind of come full circle with this. And we haven't talked about email yet, which is good.
Well, let's get into email then. So,
all right.
Tell me a bit about, give me a quick rundown of what Thrive Leads is. And then let's talk about some of the lessons that you've learned about, how to get people onto the email list.
All right. So Thrive Leads is our newest WordPress plugin. And it is essentially, it's just everything you need to generate leads on your website inside one single plugin, right? So basically any kind of opt-in form you can think of that you would want to add on your site, whether that's, an opt-in form inside your content or on a landing page or in your sidebar or a lightbox or a slide and whatever you can think of where you want to place an opt-in form or how you want it to be shown to your visitors, you can do all of that with Thrive Leads. And that's kind of the first point of it, was to unify that, so you don't have to have 5 different plugins for 5 different ways to gather leads, to unify that into one plugin. And then the other thing, and the most important thing about it, is that it's conversion focused. So the whole point of Thrive Leads is that it's about testing, running A/B tests of various kinds to figure out what actually gets the most leads onto your list. So we've got a very advanced split testing engine in there, and you can test just anything you can think of, really. So those are like the 2 main reasons we built that, because those 2 things weren't really available on the market yet. And yeah, so that was just our idea, because of course, and one of the reasons this is, our whole thing with Thrive Themes is that it's about conversion optimization. And in my business, mailing lists or email marketing have always been extremely powerful, very important part of the business. And I know this is true for so many online businesses, right? It's like the mailing list is the most valuable asset you have. And so, yeah, it was a high priority for us to create a tool that lets people build and optimize their lists.
Okay, cool. So I've actually been looking at it after Andre mentioned. I've been looking at it to another guy. So I've been doing some cold email to a couple of different lists, and one of the guys replied to me and started going on and on and on about Thrive Themes. So he's a very satisfied customer, and he was giving me a very he went and critiqued my website and told me that it was too internet marketing-y and how I need to get this theme called Thrive Themes, and so I can make it look less, sell without selling. I think he said something to the effect.
Right.
So I went and checked it out. I'm back on the site now, so I'll be updating my site at some point in the next few months, and maybe I'll give this a shot. But talk to me about some of the. I imagine that you've learned, or you probably had to study, email opt-ins, or you had, to get some ideas about what's working and what's not. And also, you've probably seen, a lot of results since then about what's working and what's not. So,
yeah,
talk to me about that. What's working right now?
Right. So, wow, there's so much to say about this. One of the things I think is currently a bit of a trend is there's a lot of fuss being made about exit intent, right? So, to explain exit intent, if you're not familiar, so the idea is that you show a lightbox with an opt-in offer, or any kind of offer really, at the moment that you suspect your visitor is about to leave your website. And the way this is usually done is you just you wait for the visitor's mouse cursor to leave the viewport. So right, if you leave the viewport of the website and you go up to the back button, or you go up to the the close icon on the browser tab, that's the moment when you would be showing this offer. So the idea is the visitor is browsing your website, they're reading your content and so on. At some point they decide, okay, I've had enough of this. They're about to close the tab, and then they see this offer pop up. And so the basic idea here is, okay, you're recovering the lost visitor essentially, right? Instead of them going away, you're giving yourself a chance to get them as a lead instead. And a lot of fuss has been made about how great this exit intent thing is. Now, with Thrive Leads, you can test different form triggers. So you can test showing a form on exit against showing it after 10 seconds, or against showing it when someone scrolls 50% down the page, or whatever, right? You can test different triggers. And if you do these tests, you will find often, and as always, you have to be very careful with generalizing rules about what works and doesn't work in conversion optimization. But what you'll find often is that the exit intent trigger does not perform well at all, right? So if you compare an exit intent trigger to, let's say, triggering a lightbox after 3 seconds or 10 seconds, my bets would always be that the time-triggered lightbox is probably going to get about twice as many, if not more, leads than exit intent. And again, it's, these generalizations are always going to be wrong in some cases, and that's why you need to test, right? But still, that's something that we found through many tests on many different sites. Exit intent doesn't perform amazingly well.
So that's an interesting question here. There's a company out there called Bounce Exchange, which we both know about, and they charge, I think, their minimum product right now is probably $4,000 a month. Maybe it's even $6,000 a month. And all they really do, as far as I can tell, is just set up they sell it really well in terms of, we've got this amazing behavioral technology, and we're going to set up this thing and optimize it. But really, they're setting up an exit intent pop-up form, creating a design for it, and then probably just split testing on an ongoing basis, and that's it. And they're charging at least $4,000 a month for it, and they're working with companies from. If you go to their site, contact us form. When you pick your budget or how big your company is, it's anywhere from there's 4 options: less than $1 million, 1 to I think 10 to 100, and then $100 plus $1 million. So they're working with big companies to do this. And it looks like a great business because they're hiring probably 30 different. I wouldn't have had a whole browser all over their site. They're hiring a whole bunch of different people. So it's going really well. But by the sound of it from the outside, it looks like all they're doing is just offering an exit intent technology. And now you're telling me that it doesn't even work generally doesn't even work as well as time triggered. Yeah,
it's crazy. I mean, I remember the first time I came across Bounce Exchange, and I was just in disbelief. And at the time, they were only, in quotes, charging like $800 a month or something. But I was in disbelief because the thing is, I mean, congratulations to them for creating a business like this. It's amazing. I mean, how cool is it if you have something as simple as that, and you're just you're cashing out to the degree of thousands per month per customer. It's amazing. But to me, it's really puzzling to me because as a business owner, even if I had a business that does a lot of volume and whatnot, it'd be so much cheaper to just hire someone to write that code and create that custom design and put it on my site, like just from scratch, right? It would be so much cheaper to do that whole thing from scratch with someone you hire in-house than this service is. That's what I don't understand. Like, because I can understand the value of, having, someone just takes care of it for you. It's done for you. But it's amazing to me that it works to that degree where people are actually willing to pay more than they would pay for an in-house person for a service.
An interesting lesson here, which I've been thinking a lot about recently, is this idea of, a lot of people get into internet marketing. I'm one of these people who, I've never really had a corporate position. I never had that, proper career where I was, going into an office every day. I've had, haven't done it for, 2 or 3 months, but that doesn't really count. So like a proper career. And so because of that, what I've learned about internet marketing and copywriting, I've been told this by, a number of people, and I think we all do this. We all undervalue what we actually do. And so we think that, this, exit pop-up thing, that's, you could just hire a developer on Odex for probably a couple $100 to set that whole thing up for you. And then the split testing would take you, like an hour every week. Like it's really, 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 you could spend, $1,000 and get it running for 6 months. It's crazy. And so we look, so we see that and we know how much we can actually pay for it. But the real value is in what these companies are actually making from it, which has been a lesson that I'm still learning, I think. So if you put an exit intent or even just a pop-up, if you put, Thrive Themes on, Amazon doesn't use pop-ups, but imagine that you were able to put it on Amazon and optimize some of that. If they're getting, I don't know how much traffic Amazon gets, it's probably millions and millions a day. And you use that to collect more often. You could probably show them with a company like Amazon that they're going to make millions of dollars a month just by implementing this pop-up strategy. And so what's interesting here is the corporate, almost like the corporate pricing strategy and how this works with it. It's not just themes. It's not just plugins. I got a friend who sells, I know someone who has a podcast editing service. And he's testing the pricing right now, but it's been as little as $2,500, I think, up to $7,000. But then recently, about a week or two ago, I heard of a guy who was boasting to a friend that he got an entire podcast launch with 10 episodes for $20,000.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah. That's a funny thing about pricing, and I mean, I totally agree. I think in general we make this mistake that we tie the idea of pricing to the wrong. Like we think, well, how much does it cost to provide this service? Well, my price can't be much more than that, right? And we don't think, and you just kind of have to remember, like you have to think more like a perfume manufacturer, where it's like the markup is 20,000%, or the thing that comes to mind is the gold-plated Lamborghini. And if you think about even just a Lamborghini car is just so insanely more expensive than a normal car. Most people, it's just completely out of reach for most people. But then there are some people who will not just buy a Lamborghini, they will also gold plate it. Like that's how much money they have. And I think we tend to forget that that's even a thing. Like mere mortals who were not born into billionaire families would not even think of the possibility of gold plating a car, right? Yeah. Because it's just, you have to be kind of in an environment of such wealth before that even seems like a good idea. And we just don't have that. And I think that's true for products as well, right? Of course, you can go out and say, whatever, I offer some kind of a service, right? Whatever it is, a lead generation optimization service or whatever, copywriting service, whatever it is. And I can say, well, what's a reasonable price, right? What's a reasonable price? I could say, I'm going to charge a couple $1,000 to do this and that. I could offer practically the exact same thing and just say it costs $20,000 or $50,000 or $100,000. And you have to be aware that some people or some companies, there is a target audience. And even for a price that seems completely outrageous to you, right? And I think it's a real challenge. The pricing thing is a real challenge for sure.
I think part of it's it's just a head, it's like a mind warp where, because at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is the art. Especially in B2B marketing. So if you're a copywriter or you're selling to businesses, which is what we're both doing, the only thing that really matters is the ROI. If you're going to make me $1 million, I'll give you $500,000 as many times as I can. So
exactly.
I think another example of this was I was on a private Facebook group, and there's this guy in there that does this high-ticket sales. I won't mention his company, but he's basically offering, one of the companies he's got right now, he's offering a #1 ranking in Google for any keyword, no matter what it is, whether it's make money online or credit cards, no matter what the keyword is, he's offering a #1 ranking. And it's guaranteed, and if they don't have the ranking within 2 to 3 months, they will give you your money back.
Okay. So
the catch is that I imagine that they vet their clients extremely well, so they'll probably turn a lot of people away. But also, the people that they do work with, they're going to be charging $100,000, $250,000, $1 million for these contracts. Yeah. And the reason people are going to pay it is because they know that if they get into that #1 ranking, they're going to be making $100,000 a day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is something it's really a matter of perspective and perception as well, because I've noticed this also as my own businesses have grown. And, as I've gone from making a few $1,000s a month to making tens of thousands to sometimes making hundreds of thousands, how my own perception of money has changed. Because I remember not too long ago when I was still kind of solopreneuring it and so on, and I was, the idea of hiring people for different things, even for simple things like design, it was like, I'm going to spend $500 on getting a design done. I'll try to avoid that. Whereas now the idea of paying someone $10,000 for a day or two of their time, if they're a really good mentor, and I know that they can come in and fix some fundamental issues in our business, or if I know here's someone who's done what I'm trying to do several times before, who's just a total pro at this. And if I can spend $10,000 to get a day or two of that person's time, that seems like a good deal now, right? But it's only because my own, the revenue in my company has grown the way it has. And I'm pretty sure that just keeps going, right? When you're making millions a month, then suddenly, spending $100,000 for someone's time or for some service just seems kind of reasonable, because you can see an ROI coming from it. Yeah.
Exactly. So, well, talk to me about what's happening with. You've probably got some interesting data coming in from your own tests, and I don't know if you see the tests of other people, but is there anything aside from the usual stuff, which is obviously have some good copy on there and have something people want? And the exit intent was interesting. Have you noticed any other interesting things about, counterintuitive things even about email opt-ins?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure about counterintuitive, but I think one of the most underutilized things is making tailored offers to different segments of your audience. So first of all, I think one of the biggest problems with testing, whenever you give people a tool to do split testing, is that we have a tendency to tinker, right? It's because it's very easy to create a form and then say, okay, I'm going to create the same form with a slightly different headline, or the same form with a different button color or something like that. It's very easy to do. But the results, the maximum possible payoff of tweaking your button colors is very low. It's never going to make a huge difference. And I think people underestimate how worth it can be to invest more time into changing your entire value proposition or even changing your entire offer, right? I think that the way I see this developing as well is we went from especially if you look at blogs, most blogs used to have just like a subscribe to my newsletter kind of opt-in, right? And by now, I think pretty much everyone knows that it's much better to have an opt-in incentive of some sort where you say, get my free report, get my free course, get my free video, whatever it is, in return for opting in. And I think the next thing that people will start to realize is that you can be even more effective by making different offers to different segments of your audience because they're interested in different things, right? So, to give an example from my own blog, if someone's looking at a post in the video marketing category, they're probably interested in something else than someone looking at a product at a post in the product creation category, right? And if I show them both the same offer, even if imagine I'm showing both of them the same like lightbox pop-up thing, and I'm testing different headlines, different buttons, different all kinds of stuff, that's never going to be as effective as saying, here's a offer that's specific to your interest in video marketing, to the video marketing people, and saying, here's an offer that's specific to your interest in product creation to the product creation people. So another way of saying this is that the greatest lever you have in your offer is the offer itself, is your opt-in incentive itself, is the thing that you promise in return for the opt-in. And that's the kind of thing where you can get, a 5 times increase in your conversion rate, which you probably will never get by tweaking the headline. And I think it's something that few people do because it's like, oh my God, now I have to do 2 opt-in incentives. Are you kidding me? I have to do 2 ebooks or 2 videos or whatever to give away or even more. That's crazy, right? But it's the kind of thing where the potential payoff for doing that is massive compared to just tinkering with small stuff. And that's something that almost nobody's doing, but it's extremely effective. And that's, if you are doing that, if you're making these tailored offers to your audience, right now you're really at the cutting edge of lead generation. If you're doing that, you're in the 1% or so of people who do that.
Right. It's interesting. When I was learning to write copy, I remember reading that from, it's probably Gary Halbert, he's got a list of why I'm the best copywriter, or an article about why he's the best copywriter ever, and it's just about this offer idea. And so I used to think of changing the offer as just changing the way you word the offer. But I think over time I've started to realize that that's not it at all. I mean, you can change the wording of the offer and tweak it and say, "We'll give you a guarantee" and that kind of thing. But like, to go back to that SEO guy that I mentioned a few minutes ago, the standard offer in the SEO industry is give us $1,000 a month, and we will build links and optimize your site and try and get it ranking on page 1. There's no guarantees though. So if it might work, it might not. It might take a little bit longer than we think. You might get to number 1, but we really don't know. Okay, that's the sort of standard offer. This guy's offer, he comes in and goes, "Hey, look, give me some cash, and I will get your site on the first page into the number 1 position for any keyword, no matter what you want, and it's absolutely guaranteed. And I'll give you your money back in 3 months' time if we haven't hit it yet." And like, the difference between those 2 offers in terms of their appeal is huge. So, I mean, and this is something I read, I think it was over the weekend. So, one thing I'm going to do this week, or planning to do this week, is sit down and just brainstorm offers, offer after offer after offer, not just tweak the existing offers that I have, but to actually go in and think about, because this is really, when we talk about the offer, this is actually getting into more of like the fundamental business issues of what's your product market fit? What problems are you actually solving? What value are you offering the market? Because the offer isn't just the words used to express or explain what the offer is. The offer is very much, what are you offering? What value are you actually going to give someone if they sign up? Are you just going to give them a website? Are you just going to write them, an example for me is, am I just going to write them, say, 10 emails? Or am I going to create some sort of system that they don't even have to worry about? I'll just do the whole thing for them. And so that's a really interesting question, and it moves away from let's just optimize those buttons and headlines like you mentioned, into that territory where you actually have to think really, really hard to solve these problems.
Yeah, and you have to understand your market, right? That's something that's like like I said, we spent a lot of time building like a really solid testing engine into our plugin, but that's the technical part. We can do that. What we can't do for you is give you an understanding of who your market is and how they think and what they want and what words they use. That's something you still have to do the grunt work there and figure out these basics. And that's what informs, what your product should be like. And this is also something where lead generation is very, very powerful, because one of the issues with trying to come up with like different offers and trying to figure out which one of these offers will have the greatest appeal is that it does take a lot of time to put together an entire offer. So one thing you can do to validate these ideas is you can, for example, just test that as a lead generation thing, show different, like get on the waiting list for offer A, get on the waiting list for offer B, and so on. Test those against each other and see which ones gets the most signups, right? And the cool thing about this is, and this is like if you want to see a great example, like the Buffer app was launched in that kind of way, right? Where they were basically just saying, hey, do you want this thing? And I think they even had like a fake offer where it looked like you could purchase it. But then when you click on the purchase button, it says, oh, sorry, this product doesn't exist yet, but you can sign up for the waiting list here. But so the cool thing is you can use this as a way to validate your different offer ideas, plus the one that gets the most attention, the one that gets the most leads. You're also building an audience that you will then be able to sell your offer to once you put it together, right? So that's another thing that is, I think, very underutilized, right? Very few people use lead generation in this way, but it's actually extremely powerful for validating a business idea and then also at the same time building the audience for that business.
Absolutely. Well, this has been an interesting conversation. Instead of being about emails, it's been about some little bit more deep topics.
Yes, good. Yeah, we straight off topic in the best possible way, I think.
Well, cool. Well, we're right on time. So before we go, though, can you give let's talk about Thrive leads very quickly. I know you've got Thrive themes as well. And I've got a link here that if people want to check it out, I'll mention that in a second. Well, tell me about Thrive leads.
Okay, well, Thrive leads, like I said, is basically the only plugin you need to generate leads from your website, right? So what you do with Thrive Leads is you install this plugin, you get rid of all the other junk you have installed to generate leads, you connect it to your mailing list, and you can set up every type of opt-in form that you want. And the most important thing, we've made it very easy to test you can test different forms, different designs, different offers, different triggers, whatever, even different form types. You can test, a slide inbox against a light box or something like that. And you can run these tests, and you can even set the tests so that they automatically gather a certain amount of data that you define. And once those limits are reached, the test will automatically stop and show only the highest converting version. So you can kind of semi-automate your testing and conversion increase as well. And basically, and all that is built into one really powerful WordPress plugin. That's Thrive Leads. And then if you got Thrive Leads is part of our Thrive Themes product line. So we have conversion optimized WordPress themes. We have a really awesome visual content builder that makes it like 1,000 times faster to build sales pages and landing pages and stuff like that in WordPress. And we've got a couple of other interesting plugins. And everything, the combining factor here, or the common factor here, is that all of our tools are built with conversions in mind. So, for example, our themes are built to be as fast loading as possible, because a fast website is extremely important for conversions. And just every feature we build, every plugin we build, everything we build, the question is always, how does this help you increase conversions? If there's no clear answer how this serves your business goal, then we don't build it. And that's how we differentiate ourselves from basically every other WordPress vendor out there.
Okay. I'm curious how it compares to, say, something like, I've been looking at, there's Optimized Press 2, which is the classic. So how is it different to that, for example?
Well, with Optimized Press 2, I think Optimized Press 2 has some like marketing features and stuff that we don't have yet. But the biggest issue, and I've talked to a lot of Optimized Press 2 users who confirm this, the biggest issue with Optimized Press 2 is that it takes so much time to build and edit your content in the editor, right? Because like everything you change, everything you add in your content is like a 5-step process. Just takes forever to make a change. And this is like, so theoretically, if you look at the Optimized Press landing page builder and you compare it to our landing page builder, theoretically, pretty much anything you can do with ours, you can do with theirs. But in practice, you're not going to do it with theirs because it will take you 3 or 5 times longer. The way we've built our visual editor, we have a similar, in a sense, visual editor where, you're looking at your landing page and you're dragging and dropping elements and you're editing as it looks. So it's a front-end editor. But the difference is that we've built it to be as fast as possible to use. So there's, you never have to refresh the page. You never have to wait for something to load or whatever. It's just like click and edit. Yeah. And everything's very immediate. So I think that's the main difference, right? If you want to create 2 pages to run a test, one against the other, with our tool, that's you can do that in a matter of minutes. With something like Optimized Press, it will take you half an hour or an hour just because the editing process is slow.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, cool. The other thing I wanted to ask about Thrive Themes was how customizable is it? Because when I think about it, I've been using Thesis, and so with Thesis, I kind of log in and you can really customize Thesis with CSS and change a lot of stuff and use custom functions to pop things, or add in different things in different areas on the page. It's really customizable. So the reason I've avoided using any, I've never even used Optimized Press, but the reason I've avoided using these different plugins or different themes is because I've worried that if I do it, I'm going to lose the customization.
Yeah. So our themes are less customizable than that. And the main reason for that is this speed factor, right? It's something that we want to address in the coming months. We're working on ways to make our themes more customizable without sacrificing page speed, which is technically tricky to do. So in most cases, I don't know what it's like with Thesis directly, but to give you an example, I tested a very simple, essentially a blank page with 1 paragraph of text in it. And I created this page. I looked at it in one of our themes, and in the source code, it's about 240 lines of code. Yeah. And I looked at it in a different theme, which is a very one of the top selling themes on ThemeForest, which is like super customizable. That exact same page, which is visually exactly the same, had 2,600 lines of code.
Wow.
And the reason is because all of these options, all of the customization, all of the extra features they have is loading just tons of code and scripts and stuff in that page, even though as a user you don't see that, or as a visitor you don't see that. But the only way they can be that customizable is by having a really bloated code. And that's something we want to avoid. So right now, our themes are definitely a lot less customizable than some of our competing themes. We don't have themes where you can like pixel by pixel change the width and length and size of everything. And the reason is that we have this performance focus, right? So we're trying to find the compromise there. We're trying to improve the customization, and they are customizable to some degree, but not like the pixel by pixel customization.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Cool. Well, I'll have a link to Thrive Leads because that was the one we talked about on the show notes. We can actually go to themcmethod.com/Thrive Leads would be the link for Thrive Leads, and then I can also have a link to Thrive Themes, which would be the mcmethod.com/Thrive Themes. So all those links will be in the show notes at themcmethod.com if you want to get that. Shane, thanks for coming on the show, man.
All right. Hey, this was a blast. Thanks for having me.
Hey everybody, thanks for listening. If you want to discover more insider tips, tricks, and secrets about driving sales with email marketing, sign up for daily email tips from the autoresponder guy. Go to dropdeadcopy.com/podcast. Sign up, confirm your email address, and I'll send you daily emails on how to improve your email marketing and make more sales via email. You'll find out why open rates don't matter and the 7-letter word that underlies all effective marketing and much more.